So I think you've heard me talk about my coach Rich Litvin several times on the podcast, and Rich has been on the podcast. Being part of Rich's community, being a client of his for number of years, I got to meet some really, really, really cool people. And then my circle got bigger and bigger. I'm very hesitant to bring coaches on the call. One, because I'm a coach, so I say all the coachy things. But the other reason is because they come on the call and they'll say coachy things. My next guest, though, David Taylor Klaus, is the exception to the rule. I've been following him for a while, again, because he's part of the same community. And I start to get interested in people who are bringing real value and boots on the ground kind of stuff, something you can use every day. So let me give you his official bio, and then we'll bring him on the show. David Taylor Klaus is a speaker. He's an author. He's a leadership coach on a mission to unearth and unleash the personal mastery of entrepreneurs and senior executives. And by the way, he's been doing this for a long time. He's got more certifications than I can never think about getting. Since 2008, David has empowered his tribe to take an active, intentional, and dynamic role in their development and create the kind of life work rhythm. I love that. Life work rhythm, not life work balance, life work rhythm, enabling them to build profitable businesses, raising thriving families, and live wildly fulfilling lives. And the thing that really caught my attention is his new book, Mindset Mondays, 52 Ways to Rewire Your Thinking and Transform Your Life, which is available now. He's been doing videos and he's doing all kinds of excerpts from it. And it's so useful. So David, thank you for being here.
Hey, it's awesome. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I have to do the intro real long because I like to hear myself talk. Because once we get my guests on, then you're going to talk. But you and I come from the same pedigree, and you've been in the coaching industry for a long time, but you've also been working with Rich. And I know Rich often says, write the book that you need to read, right? Like I wrote Only Tens because I wrote Only Tens for me. So I'm assuming that you wrote Mindset Mondays for yourself, and then it just so happens that everybody else gets something out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it started off as a purely selfish motivation behind the precursor to the book. And the book is it's the book I needed when I was 13 or 14. It's the book I needed when I launched into my first entrepreneurial endeavor. And it's the book I needed to be hit with several times in the middle when I lost track of what I was doing.
So let's just start off really, really basic, because this word mindset gets bantered around. And I often, people are like, you're a mindset coach. Are you a this coach? Are you a that coach? What the hell is mindset?
So let's take it out of all the terminology and take it down to the basics. I share a quote in the book that we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And the most essential way of looking at mindset, it's the lens through which we see the world, right? And the cool part of that is mindset is not fixed at birth. It is something that can be shifted. So when we change the lens through which we see the world, we change the way we experience it. So mindset are the lenses you use that shape your experience.
That's I love that definition. So you're talking about rewiring those mindsets.
Absolutely.
Why do you pick like a mindset a week? Why do you pick a shift like in a specific time? How did you come up with doing it this way?
I came up with it by being an accidental author, right? I didn't set out to write a book. I sat with my marketing person, this woman I've been working with since 1995, 96, and said, I want to get more comfortable speaking to any topic off the cuff through the lens of my point of view. And
oh, that's so smart. I like that.
I wanted to be more visible, but I didn't really want to be seen. So she threw a challenge at me. She said, okay, all of my business cards have, there are 50 different quotes, one in the back of each card. And she said, pick up one of your cards, flip on a live stream, and talk about it for 10 minutes. And after I cursed her out, I started to consider it. But she kept talking. She was like, and it could be a book, it could be a TED Talk, it could be, and it was just like blah, blah, blah. I stopped listening after the video because my stomach had turned over. So I started the thing purely for me, and then people started to show up.
Yeah, because those videos are so good. Those mindset videos are so good. So she's brilliant.
Yeah, she really is. And it was designed to be natural. I have a blurb that I send out so people know which quote I'm talking about, but I don't prepare. I flip on the camera, and what's current comes out.
Okay.
And I see so many of these videos that are highly produced and highly polished and just boring. And I don't watch them, so I don't want to do videos like that because people won't watch them. Right. And so, I'm now 142 episodes into this weekly series that was only supposed to go for a year. But I started to notice that there was some really cool learning surfacing from the community. And I was learning a ton about mindset and about leadership and about shifting my world.
So hold on a second. So you've been a coach. You've been steeped in mindset for a long time. You've already been learning all this stuff. So by teaching it again, by actually putting it in this format, what are some of the surprises of what you came up with as you were speaking that was coming out of your mouth that was a surprise to you?
The reason people aren't more successful at changing their mindset is because they have a one and done mentality.
And what does that mean?
That means I'm going to do this once and it's going to change forever. And then they're disappointed because the behavior doesn't stick, which is back to your first question, exactly why the rewire framework was created. Because people will read a book and be so excited about it. People will take their team to a 3-day offsite and everybody's excited. And they come back in Monday morning. And as soon as the phone starts ringing and the email starts coming in, Cubenesia takes over and they forget everything that they were excited about. Happens with team offsites, it happens with books, it happens with everything because people don't create a pattern of behavior to land the learning and make it last. So this book was designed to fix that.
Got it. One of the things I love in all the preparation that you sent me for the podcast,
Yeah,
one of the takeaways that you want people to take from the book is that they are in control, right?
absolutely.
That they and only tens. My book, it kind of has a similar pedigree. Is if people just get that they aren't victims of their to-do list, that they're not victims of their circumstances, that they're the owner of their experience. I'm a happy guy if that's all they got out
Yeah,
of the book. And you
it's
say
one
basically the
takeaway.
same thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
so
and
talk more about that.
yeah, our coach talks about the distinction between living a created life and a reported on life. And it's, am I an active participant and in control of the situation around me? Am I creating the conditions for my own success, or am I just fielding the am I fielding the things that are happening to me and merely reacting to them? So just moving from reacting to responding allows you to be an intentional architect of your world as opposed to a victim of it.
So how do you, so people most people are firefighting all day. They're firefighting at work. They come home. They have firefighting. They're just doing shit all day until they can finally turn on the TV or until they go to bed. How do you
Until they
shift,
numb out.
right? So how do you shift from reacting firefighting all day and take that mindset shift of seeing the world as something that you're creating and that you have an impact on?
First thing, so there are two things. One is creating the conditions for your success, creating a container. So you said they're firefighting here, firefighting there, fire. One of the first things I get folks to do is turn off the email alerts on every device they own. Email should be something you visit, not something that runs your life.
Right. So
That,
so if it's coming up and ringing your doorbell,
yeah, yeah, stop that right away. Text, different story. That's the first thing. Second thing is take the time for those of us that still actually drive to work, even though nobody is right now, take the time in the morning on the way to work to not do any work. Make an energetic shift between home and work. If it's a podcast, listening to music, silence, whatever it is, give yourself that container on either side of the workday because we don't shift gears instantly. That's
agreed.
not how our brains work. And if I'm at work all day and I'm making phone calls all the way home, and then I hang up the phone and turn the doorknob, I'm trailing all that emotional energy like toilet paper on my shoe, and that begins to permeate the relationships I have at home. So the first thing you do is create containers so that things don't bleed over, right? That reduces the chance of
And
firefighting going
it's
in the middle
really
of the
hard to
day.
do if you're working from home. It's really hard to find. Like it's really cool when you work driving back and forth to work or commuting.
Fair, yeah.
Like cool, I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'll shift my energy. I walk through the door. My kids can greet me. Now I just open my door and my kids are on the other side and they're probably putting their fingers underneath the door trying to get to me.
Right.
So now how do I get that energetic shift? Right.
So notice you said it's hard when you're working from home. Not necessarily. That's a belief, that's a language set that you chose that makes it that way. All it means is you have to create the container there. And if that means 15 minutes of being still or listening to a podcast or doing something that isn't work before you walk out of your office door, it just means you don't have the built-in container of the car or the train. You have to create it.
But David, my kids need me. But David, my wife keeps asking me. My husband needs, but David,
Open
like
the
I
door.
just,
Sweetie, I'll be out
right.
in 10 minutes. Close the door
And
again.
that's the secret. That's the secret sauce of being in control of being react. You have,
Exactly.
the courage to speak what you need, set a boundary, ask for what you want. Honey, I really need the 15 minutes, but from
And to do it
5.
without being a jerk. It's to
Yeah.
say, hey, honey, I got you. No worries. I'll give 10 more minutes and I'll be out, and then nail the 10 minutes.
Right.
Right. The communication and communicating from a place of caring and connection. It's if you when we recover to relationship instead of task, we very rarely come out as a jerk accidentally.
I actually in the 2.0 version of Only
Yeah.
Tens, I talk about the stages of being able to set a boundary. The first stage is you just get so pissed off and you're so angry that you can't stand it. You blow up and you set a boundary.
Yeah, that goes real well.
Stage two is the obsequious. Listen, I'm really sorry, and this is the reason I need to set the boundary. And you tiptoe around the boundary
Ugh.
to the maturity of
Mhm.
this is the boundary I need. What do you need in order to help me have that boundary? And and then you have a straightforward conversation. And the reason I wrote it is because that was me. I was the victim all the time until I blew up, right? And then when I finally said, okay, maybe I should be on the list. Okay, maybe can I have a little time or can I have this? And then finally, it took a while to mature into, I can set a boundary kindly
All
and
right. So
lovingly.
so that was the self-actualized version, and take it up to the next level, which is the transcendent version, and it's the give before the ask. It's you said, here's the boundary I need to set. What do you need? Flip that in reverse. There's the give before the ask, and that shifts the energy of the boundary
Give me
setting
an
even
example of
more.
that. Make that real, because you're teaching me
So
something here.
I great conversation that I helped a client have with their spouse. Because I love you and want to live with you for the rest of my life, I need to tell you this. As opposed to, oh my God, you're being a
Got
jerk
it.
and you're making my life miserable. Oh, by the way, I'm telling you that because I want to live with you for the rest of my life. They're not hearing that piece. So the
Right.
give before the ask makes the ask a lot more likely to land.
I love that. And you call that the transcendent boundary. I like that. Very
Yeah,
cool.
our understanding of Maslow seems to have frozen before the end of his work, because after self-actualization, there's another level, which is the transcendence. It's the next level of where the focus is not just on actualizing self, but actualizing the world around you. And
So
that was
what's
the last 2 years of his life, but nobody talks about it.
mm. So what have you learned, since you wrote the book and now you've been on podcasts, you've been talking about it. What are you learning for yourself about mindset?
Oh, no. The biggest lesson for me was I have a fetishistic attachment to making things hard so that I feel more of a sense of accomplishment. And it's a mindset that's permeated the way I've done everything. You joked at the beginning about how many certifications I have. When I noticed that I have the same number of letters after my name as I have in my name, I said, "Shit, I've got to stop this." I was getting them for me.
Mm,
And I was over yesing and doing too many at the same time. And it was all about something that I needed to make me feel better and to soothe my needs, but it didn't change anything for my clients.
got it. So I love that because we talk about it all the time. We make problems in order to solve them, so we feel
Mm.
useful instead of letting things be easy. But it's not a fault of ours. It's kind of how our brain is wired. Is we just are problem solving machines. So if there's not a problem, let's go create one, right?
And if there is a problem, let's make it even bigger, because the fiercer the dragon, the sweeter the victory.
Mm,
It's a perverse way of looking at things. We have a stain on the word easy, and a mindset that we've inherited culturally or by community or by our educational system is that easy is bad.
right.
We even play the game of shifting language to, no, no, it's not easy, it's easeful. It's full of ease. It's not hard, right? And we play games in coachy language, and that it's hard is that if it's harder, it's better is a belief that we've inherited.
Well, it's work. So if work is supposed to be hard, play is supposed to be easy. If work is play, I must not be working hard enough. Or, like again, we talk a lot about being in our zone of genius. When I'm in my zone of genius, it doesn't feel like work.
Mhm.
If it doesn't feel like work, I must. So for me, like let's just say in the coaching business, coaching for me is effortless.
Mm.
Coaching for me is I'm in my zone of genius, and it may take, I stink when I'm done with 3 coaching sessions. Like I need a
Yeah.
shower because it really is a lot of energy and a lot of work. And I've done a lot of work to have expertise, but for as far as I would do it all day, every day, no problem. Podcasting, creating content, all of that is just effortless for me. So I feel like I'm not working. So I have to go and I have to do my taxes and I have to do my this and I have to do all my social media and I have to do all those things, which are agony for me. But now I feel like I'm working and I'm building a business
Yeah,
instead of just shipping that off to people who actually love doing that stuff.
exactly. Yeah. Building it off to people who love to do that and are willing to be paid to do it.
So people are listening, and they're downloading the book as they're listening. I'm sure because it's just it's really practical. What's the first thing someone has a busy, overwhelming life? What's the first thing you would tell someone to go do? Like what's biggest bang for your buck? The low hanging fruit to change your mindset.
I think the words create worlds. It's become one of my favorite chapters. It's playing with the concept of beginning to shift your language and then notice where your language is creating constraints. So best example
So you have to
always.
slow down on that one. Words
Yes,
create worlds. My version
absolutely.
of that is you create with your words. So be careful what you say. You say. So you expand on that a little bit more because that's kind of a new concept for people. What you're
Well,
saying.
I'll play with an example with you. What's something that you feel like you're not good at or you want to be better at?
Um,
Let's stay with what's something you
oh,
suck
actually,
at.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah,
I am a terrible leader or manager for my assistant.
great. So you just use locked binary language.
Totally.
I am a terrible manager or leader for my assistant, right? Now, the primitive brain, it has very few modes of action, fight, flies, freeze, make babies. That's it. That's all it really knows how to do. And it's got no nuance,
Right.
right? So when you use language that's locked, it hears that. It's taking it as a
So
truth.
I said I am bad
A.
at.
Yes.
Boom. There's no argument there.
Whereas when we use simplest language change, up until now, I've been terrible. I've been a terrible manager at or for my assistant.
Mm.
The up until now, that opens up the possibility for change. And language like that, first of all, using language like that will change the way you lead your assistant because they're hearing different language from you.
So up until now, I've been a terrible leader for you. I haven't
Yeah,
given you clear instructions. Going forward, blah blah blah.
right. And then retouching that conversation with a regular cadence, not like the 360s that happen in corporate where nobody looks at it for 364 days, right? There has to be a cadence of activity and accountability to go with it.
Right.
But that starts with opening up for the possibility of change. So words create worlds is a huge piece because we don't hear our language. And one of the things I work with clients on all the time is being aware of their language and the impact wake of that language.
Give me another example because this is really fascinating.
Well, when you're talking to your team and saying this team is terrible at, and we hear that all the time, it seems you guys are incapable of doing blah 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 blah.
I know
Well,
you hear that out of people's mouths, and you're like,
the skin.
that's leadership 101. Jacks are better, baby. But it's
Yeah,
human nature, right?
it
So
is, and it's human. See, okay, so I learned from a friend in the 12-step world. We're not responsible for our first thought, but we are responsible for our second. And it's human nature to rant like that, and yet that has an impact.
sure.
And that reactivity has an impact. It's generally not what you're intending. So one of the things I work with people on is that pause. Rich talks about slow down to speed up. It's breathe. Give yourself a moment to move past that first thought inside and get out of reactive mode and into responsive mode.
Mhm.
That allows you to bring up the modern part of the brain that's not all about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. You actually can do something a little more engaging with your team. So that's where words create worlds starts to make a very subtle shift that the longer they pay attention to that language, the more dramatic that shift becomes.
Incredible. And, and to have people in your life who pay attention to your words, which, a coach does is, when you're talking, like I'm talking to you, I just, I'm a coach. I'm a mindset guy. I know, I watch my language. And of course, I just got off the phone with someone and I was talking about my, what my assistant is doing for me. And I was in the mindset of, I'm a terrible leader for my assistant. So of course, so I need someone to call me on that. And everybody needs some kind of support to be their best.
Yeah, our primary job is to reflect the system back to itself. I mean, that's language from the whole team coaching footprint. That's what a coach does for the individual, for the team, for any of the systems they work with.
I've never heard that before in my life. This
Yeah,
is where the training comes in.
you
So,
reflect the system back to itself because the system can't see itself,
mhm.
nor can the individual. That's what coaches are incredible at, is holding that mirror. We all have a Coney Island funhouse circus mirror reflection of ourselves. It's distorted. I've got the best job in the world. I just have to yank the mirror straight and reflect back what's true. And the clients can reshape their world just by seeing the truth.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so where can people find you and find out more about this?
Awesome. I like simple. mindsetmondayswithdtk.com. You can get information about the book. You can download the Rewire framework so you can begin to play with it while you wait for the book. And there's information on there you have access to about me.
And I would also suggest that you follow David's social media because he just puts out, gold every week in and week out. It's really good stuff. I pay attention to, like I said, very few people. I pay attention to David. So all these are going to be in the show notes because I really want people to be able to find you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I
Looking
really
forward to
appreciate
it.
I really appreciate you sharing on the podcast, and some real useful gems for people to walk away with.
It's a great morning.
To everybody else, I love you. I appreciate you. I cannot believe that so many of you listen every day. I hope this was valuable. Be kind to yourself. Have a great rest of the day.